Hello Tamers, Regina or Jigglypuff here, and welcome to another deck profile. This one is a tale of two Kaguyamon, and in case you haven't figured it out, this one is going to be based off of one of the new Kaguyamons from EX11 as well as the old Kaguyamon, and this one's actually more focused on the other sister of the Kinosaki sisters, so this is going to be focused mostly on Mirai as opposed to Arisa. You've seen this deck list probably floating around. I've played with the deck a couple of times, and I'm still trying to figure out the playstyle that I like a lot for it, so a lot of the choices that I make in this deck might not be ones that people agree with or ones that people don't like, and that's totally fine. As always, Digimon is a game that we all play individually. This is just from a handful of times of testing. This deck is still in the process of being reviewed because I wanted to have two different puppet decks. I wanted to have a Cendrillmon focused one on Arisa and one focused on Mirai. And the Mirai one seemed like a lot of fun because I've been wanting to be able to use her for a very long time. I found that her initial card wasn't up to par with what I wanted for this deck, so having a lot of support for her come out since then is kind of neat, and I'm really excited about this, so let's get into it. So our first one, we're actually going to talk about the eggs. Now there's kind of two different trains of thoughts on the eggs here. So the first one that is the for Kyaromon from BT22. This is a your turn when any of your one of your tokens or other puppet Digimon are deleted, you get to draw a card. So this helps a lot because most puppet decks are always about deleting, or things are going to either get sacrificed for other Digimon, or that they just sort of get deleted in security. I like this one. This has kind of been a staple in all of the puppet decks for me just because it's extra draw power, and so I am very much a fan of it. What the other thing you could go with is for the Nyaromon from BT15. So this is the one that's kind of a little bit more aggressive. The only reason I'm not running the Nyaromon in my current deck is I legitimately cannot find my Kyaromon. I have no idea where they went. This one is a when attacking, once per turn, by trashing the top or bottom card of your security stack, you gain a memory. This one falls into a little bit more of an aggressive playstyle when it comes to puppets. It really focuses on being able to not really like OTK your opponent, but get within the range of it within 1 or 2 turns because of how fast the Nyabootmon build can go. I know that I have always had struggles with trashing my own security. I've done it before for Barry, and I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with it because in a more aggressive build, you have to be okay with doing that. This also does posit that you are very memory cognizant, so you're very aware of how much memory you're giving your opponent, because the goal is to be able to use the Nyaromon at the right time so that you can grab back turn and overclock again for game. Essentially is what you're trying to do, because overclock is not once per turn in the terms of you can overclock, and then if something happens that it comes back to your turn, you may overclock again. So the Nyaromon really helps lend itself into that. If you can find your Nyaromon, fantastic. And if you find yourself a more aggressive player, like I usually tend to do, 100% go with the Nyaromon. I wouldn't go with a 4 and 1 split or a 3 and 2 split. I think when it comes to these eggs, you should find one to stick with it, because you never want to find yourself in a position where you hatch one egg and think, I wish I had the other one because it's better for me in this position. So that's that. Your level 3s, of course, we're going to start with 4 of the Shoemon from Starter 19. This one is the on-place Searcher. You reveal top 3, you add a card with Puppet and one with Liberator, and then you turn the rest to the bottom of the deck. I love this card. I love Searchers. I think Searchers are great. This Shoemon will pick up 2 cards 90% of the time. Every now and then, you'll get the back-to-back hits where you can't pick up both, but that's totally fine. Our goal is to be able to consistently search and consistently fill our hand so that we have more options in our hand. The more choices you have in your hand to Evo, the better off you usually are. So for me, just easy 4 of this one. The EX7 Shoemon, this is a 3 of now in the deck. It used to be a 2 of in my previous iterations. This one is the cost reduction, so your turn when you would evo into a Digimon card with a puppet trait, you reduce the evolution cost by 1. I found that it's a little bit nicer to be able to run this, mostly because we're cutting out a lot of trainings for the most part, and so you want to make sure you're as memory efficient as possible, and making sure you're able to go into your level 4s for 1 less cost is a lot nicer, because you'll always be at 0 memory after you do that, at least because your opponents at minimum have to give you the 1 memory. So I like this as a 3 of now. That might change after we play a little bit more. I've found lately that a lot of the Digimon, especially for Liberator Digimon, that have the your turn effect, I found that there are a lot of times where I'm like, I wish this was something else. However, that's only because of the inherits that come with other Liberator Digimon. For Shoemon particularly, its inherit is your opponent's security get minus 3k, which is the same as the Searcher Shoemon. So that's really nice because sometimes even with Alliance, your Digimon are not big enough. And there's like a whole host of like other issues with that. That's entirely Digimon problem. But security Digimon getting the minus to your security is also really nice. Just be careful because sometimes it means Digimon that you would like to get deleted in security or in any sort of battle sometimes don't get deleted. It's happened to me a couple of times where I've like accidentally forgotten that I have that negative security. So moving on to our next ones is going to be the Shoemon from EX11. This one has an on deletion effect. You can play a familiar token, which is the token that is 3000 TP, and it has on deletion when your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3k for the turn. This Shoemon's inherit is Barrier. I love that so much. We're running this as a 3 of. I like this one because it has an on deletion effect, and again, this deck focuses a lot on either sacrificing another Digimon on your way up into higher levels, or you're okay with it getting deleted in security. A lot of times you're able to give a lot of these puppets blocker as well, so having a on deletion to replace the body is really, really nice. I will also say it's important that it is a yellow Digimon because it technically fulfills your color requirements for certain aspects. But again, I love the fact that it has Barrier. It did mean that I got to cut down a couple of other cards that I had before, including the Junkmon that had Barrier from before. I will say the Junkmon had Decoy, which is pretty neat, but I think this on deletion being able to replace a body is a little bit better. So, and then my personal preference on this one is actually running 2 of the Hanimon from EX9. I know some people like to just run a pure Shoemon build. I really like this Hanimon. This Hanimon is an on play, you trash a card in your hand. You can return a Digimon card with a puppet trait from your trash to the hand. The reason I like this Hanimon so much is you are able to at least recur pieces that you might miss. We can't always grab stuff back from the trash, and there are certain things that have changed in this deck that make it a little bit more difficult to grab pieces. So on the off chance you ever find yourself really stuck, having a Hanimon is really handy because you can just go ahead, hard play it, pitch out something else that you find that you might not need, and then grab back that piece that you do need to go and continue your chain up. I also think its inherit has been a lot nicer lately. I've been in positions where I'm like, I just wish I could delete another Digimon just to stop this attack, and so this Hanimon has that inherit, but I really just love it for the recursion. I think it's going to take me a very long time to let go of this recursion specifically, but that takes care of our level 3s, so let's go ahead and go to our level 4s. Running a form of the Shoemon. This is the promo one that you can find in tournament packs. It was also printed in a limited bullet like thing from P Bandai. It has a security effect. Security effect actually does happen pretty often, and I guess it's not surprising when you're running 4 of them, but more importantly, on play. When Digivolving, you play a familiar token. Importantly to note that the token that you play off of the promo Shoemon does get deleted at the end of your opponent's turn. In my experience, it very rarely gets to that point, but it is still kind of important to note that like you don't always have that body consistently, so it's a nice target for either you to delete on your way like for something else, or to use as a sacrifice for like any sort of stopping attack or for blockers and shenanigans. Also has Barrier as an inherit for the Shoemon, so it has come up on occasion, but this thing is a dream come true when it gets hit in security. I've seen the funniest things happen with it, but it is an on play when Digivolving effect. That's the biggest reason that we have this card for. So I love this promo Shoemon. I just remember reading it the first time and I went, wow, they let us have this. That's so crazy. And then a new change to this deck is 3 of the Kokeshimon from EX11. This is when Digivolving if you have one of your tamers, you can play a Mirai Kinosaki from your hand without paying the cost. So this one is basically the Shoemon equivalent of the one when Digivolving if you have one of your Orisas, but for Mirai instead. This one's really just to make sure you get your tamers out on the field because the way that the novel emblems work is that they trigger when that specific tamer is played. So the Kokeshimon actually kind of helps turbo you up into your entire line, which is actually kind of wild. So the inherit for this one is the same as the Hanimon, that when one of your opponent's Digimon attacks, you can delete one of your other Digimon to stop the attack. I'm growing on the Kokeshimons. I love their design a lot, and that was never the problem. and I think that they're finding their place now a little bit. I do like that you can also evolve this. I do love that like the whole Hanimon line does have the black text for evolving on top of a puppet trait, because that does kind of matter. Because we're going into our other level 4s, which are going to start with the 2 of the Namakemon from BT16. Do not come for me for this one. I really, really love this card. I love Pulsemon's line, and it's this actually, I think I am going to have the hardest time letting go. This one has an on-play one Digivolving effect. It is a puppet. If you have 3 or more security cards until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon can't have its DP reduced by your opponent's effects and is an effect by Digivolve. If you have 3 or fewer, one of your Digimon gains blocker and reboot until the end of your opponent's turn. If you have 3, you get both effects. The reason that I think that you could cut this card is because if you're in a more aggressive build, you're not really ever going to be in a spot where you're like, yeah, I have to care about what you're going to do to this Digimon. So the more aggressive the build that you're going with, the less justifiable this Namakemon is. Again, I can't find my Kyaromons, so I am not quite as aggressive in the deck as I would like to be. So this is just a good way to protect the some of the Digimon that I'm going to have on the field. Digivolve has been stronger and stronger every set as well, so having that protection is also just really nice. The neat part is kind of if you can play this off of like a one Digivolving effect in before you attack, if you hit something in like security that would Digivolve you, you can always just be like, hey, not affected, so sorry. I really, really love this card. Pulsemon's one of my... Actually, I have a lot of favorite Digimon, but Pulsemon, when it got first designed, I was like, I really love you, you're adorable. Alright, and we're moving on to 2 of the Sistermon, Ciel from BT6. You've seen this one a lot. If you play Justmon, you've seen this a lot. If you have been in Digimon for a very long time, I loved this card. This card was really great. The all turns doesn't matter for this deck. It would give all your Huckmon and Royal Knight traits in their types plus 2 KDP. That part doesn't matter. The on play gains you a memory back. So if you can somehow chain this properly with Kyaromon and any of your like level 6s that play out a level 4, or any of your 6 or level 7s that would play out a level 4, you can actually steal the turn back with this one. But the important part is your opponent has to be at 2 memory for you to be able to do this, because the Kyaromon will gain you back 1, the Sistermon Ciel will gain you back 1 more, and you will be at 0. It will be your turn again after the your initial checks go through, and you can overclock again. The Sistermon holds like a really special place in my heart. I really adore Justmon. If you've watched any of my other videos about this type of stuff, I love Justmon so much. It is my second favorite Royal Knight after Omnimon, and I was really happy to be able to use this in here. Now, I am also running one of the Sistermon Ciel Awaken from BT20. I am actually kind of waffling back and forth between this Sistermon Ciel or the BT23 Sistermon Ciel. It's, I think, a matter of preference at this point. The Awakened Sistermon has a trash effect, so when any of your Digimon are played, one of your CLs can evolve into this card without paying the cost, and as an on-play when Digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers can't suspend until the end of their turn, so that means you can not have to worry about blocker effects happening, or that you don't have to worry about things like Tamers suspending that would cost you the game. Fun fact, that happened to me at Nationals. It was the Dan and Kane and Yuki that knocked me out because I couldn't stun it, and it was a little bit unfortunate. And then end of all turns for the Sistermon Ciel Awakened, you can place this Digimon... Sorry, you can't. You have to. You place this Digimon as a top stacked security card. This is just still sort of like a neat recursion or recovery like side effect for you as well. And then if you're able to kind of loop a Sistermon Ciel consistently, if you need to, then you can keep using the Sistermon Ciel Awakened to be able to recover. Just be mindful of how many cards you're drawing off of that. But like I said, I'm kind of waffling between this one and the BT23 one, because the BT23 one is a blocker on its own, and it has an on play where you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 4 or less, and then all turns when it suspends, you Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. So for me, it's just sort of a what does your meta look like, and what does the area that you're playing look like? Do you prefer the Digivolve, or would you rather just have the stun? So I think at that point it's just a matter of preference. That does take care of our level 4s though, so we're gonna move on to our level 5s. We're only running one type of Digimon for level 5s, and it's actually gonna be the Karakurumon. We're gonna start off with 4 of the one from EX9, and I genuinely think this card is legitimately just insane. Like, every time I think about this card, I just think, I cannot believe that Bandai gave us a card like this, because it's an on-play and one Digivolving effect. And all those like level 4s that you just saw that are off color for this deck, it doesn't matter for the Karakurumon because the Karakurumon has that black Digimon text box that says level 4 with puppet trait cost. So Namakemon and the Sistermons are all puppets. You can evolve. It has an on-play when digivolving by deleting one of your tokens or other puppet trait Digimon. This Digimon may digivolve into a Digimon card with a puppet trait in the hand without paying the cost. It's free real estate, folks. You can just go straight into your 6. It's fantastic. I love this card. When I was first playing puppets, there was games where I was just like, I'm just gonna hard play this because I need to go into my 6, and somehow it works. Love this card. I think they did such a gorgeous job with this art for the championship, and I was lucky enough to find people who are willing to part with it at a reasonable price, so I'm very, very thankful to those people. I think this card is absolutely stunning. I think the ability of it is silly as heck, and as a puppet player, I am grateful. As somebody who probably has to sit across from this, I don't know how happy I am about it, because this really does turbo you into a 6 as fast as possible. That earlier promo Shoemon I was talking about, the one that gets hit and that has a security effect, you just use those tokens for this. It's totally fine. And then the alterns, when this Digimon would leave the battle area other than by your effects, you delete one of your tokens or other puppet trait Digimon so it doesn't leave. It's a very good protection because you usually just delete a token to give something minus 3k. And usually, in my experience, that means that you're deleting something that they could use for either lethal or for their own benefits. Just be very, very careful. DP reduction doesn't negate protection, so 0 DP Digimon still cannot exist in the field. Your opponent can still attempt to protect it, but then rules resolution will say, hey, it's still at 0 DP, please get rid of it. So the other level 5 we are running is actually 3 of the Karakurumon from EX11. This one has Scapegoat. So that one was really funny. I remember when they revealed this and we kind of read it, we're like, why is it getting Scapegoat, guys? It does have the same inherit as the Karakuru, so it's still the same all turns when it would leave other than by your effect. You just delete something else to keep it from leaving. It also has an on-play when digivolving, not quite as cracked as the EX9 one, but you can play one puppet trait Digimon card with 4,000 DP or less from your hand, or trash without paying the cost. At the end of the turn, delete the Digimon this effect played. Again, if you're going the really aggressive route with this deck, it won't really matter for turn end about deleting this Digimon because you usually are trying to win that turn anyway. The neat part about this is that when it comes to the 4,000 DP, you can hit stuff like the Namakemon, but more importantly, you hit stuff like the Shoemon promo. And that means you get an extra body, which is always really fun. I think it's the only downside to this one is that it does digivolve on top of a yellow or purple level 4 with a puppet trait cost. So keep that in mind. It does have to matter for the color of the Digimon that you're going on top of when you're evolving into this. They kind of learned, I guess. So just be very, very mindful of that one specifically. But that's all our level 5s. And then we're going to move to our level 6s. So our first one is the 2 of the Kaguyamon from EX9. I love this Kaguyamon. I actually prefer this art a little bit over the Debugger set, and I think it's just because I like the way that this one looks a little bit more. This Kaguyamon is fantastic. It's really great. It evolves for a level 5 with a puppet trait for a cost of 3, so it doesn't have to worry about the color for it. Not that it matters because both of our Karakuros can fulfill the condition. So all turns, all of your tokens and puppet trait Digimon gain Alliance, and they gain Blocker. All turns once per turn, when other Digimon are deleted, delete one of your opponent's lowest level Digimon. It just says other Digimon are deleted. So it doesn't have to be just your Digimon. It just says when other. So if your opponent deletes a Digimon somehow, you can also trigger that effect so long as your Kaguyamon is still on the field when all of their effects resolve. Then end of your turn specifically, you can play a level 4 or lower puppet trait Digimon card from your trash without paying the cost. Do I love playing that promo Shoemon off of this effect? Absolutely. You get 2 extra. You get 2 blockers for the price of 1, essentially. And then at the end of your opponent's turn, that token usually deletes itself. So because if the Kaguyamon hasn't triggered, then that token dying will let you trigger it. And when I say usually dies, I mean like at some point you're going to use it to block, most likely, right? And I think it's funny because they gain Alliance. So if something has Alliance already, you can give it another Alliance and you should be able to I think that's how it should work. You should be able to, like, if something already has a keyword Alliance on it and then this Kaguyamon gives an Alliance, you should have Alliance twice, sort of like how Jessamon has it twice in its inherits. Don't quote me on that one. I would absolutely double check that one. It has not yet come up for me where I can do both, like where I have to have the question of, hey, I have this Cendrillmon and I have this Kaguyamon. Can I alliance twice, essentially? I want to say yes, but who knows? Again, haven't had to run into that problem yet, unfortunately, but the dream is there. Love this Kaguyamon. And then the other Kaguyamon is going to be the one from EX11. This is the box topper version. I think this art is really nice. I am being driven more and more by the way that art in Digimon looks, but this Kaguyamon's really funny to me. This also has a black text box, but that part, again, doesn't matter because of our Karakurus. However, it has Alliance and Scapegoat. It has Alliance for itself, and it has Scapegoat. I just... Why did they give it Scapegoat, guys? I don't get it. Anyways, when Digivolving and the end of your opponent's turn, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. It's like a knockoff Death Xmon, essentially, but she's cooler looking. So it's basically just you delete something on your opponent's side of the field, and then all turns when other Digimon are deleted, you can play a level 4 or lower puppet trait Digimon card from your trash without paying the cost. It's really funny because you can still play that Shoemon. I think that these two together is like, it's like my dream to just have them both on the field together, because having blockers and then having them both trigger is just really funny to me. Where you're like, oh, other Digimon deleted. I'm gonna delete one of your lowest level Digimon with this EX9 Kaguyamon. Oh, cool. Other Digimon are deleted. I'm going to bring back something else with this EX11 Kaguyamon. All those blockers you worked so hard to get rid of, they're back. And Scapegoat is just actually also really nice, so it gives an added layer of protection to this Kaguyamon from EX11. And the Scapegoat is not once per turn. As long as you have something to sacrifice to it, you're fine. And I think that's kind of funny because there are a lot of ways to get a lot of tokens on the field, and again, a lot of the stuff can replace itself in terms of body, so like that Shoemon from EX11 can also replace itself if you were to delete itself for Scapegoat shenanigans. And then the last level 6 we are going to be running is of course a 4 of the Cendrillmon from EX11. I am still slightly on the fence about this Cendrillmon. I think it's really, really good. I think I just got spoiled a little bit by the rare from the previous sets, where it's when one of your like Digimon get deleted, you activate its one Digivolving effect. However, this card is just so funny when it comes to winning games. It has Alliance now officially on its own instead of just getting it from Kaguyamon, and it has Overclock still, which no surprise. On play, when Digivolving. Why does it have an on play? I have no idea. Will I probably hard slam this at some point and be like, here's 10 memory, have fun? Yes. Have I done it before with the Cendrillmon? Absolutely. It was a nightmare. Somehow we won that game. It's because both my opponent and I bricked. It was a very funny match. But it's on play, and when Digivolving, you can play a level 4 or lower puppet trait Digimon card from your hand without paying the cost. Then you may play a familiar token for each of your opponent's Digimon. It's a very nice way to punish your opponent's Digimon for your opponent's board for going wide, because you get all those bodies back in return. If you have that EX9 Kaguyamon out on the field, you have an army of blockers. It's fun. Its second when Digivolving and when attacking effect specifically is to one of your opponent's Digimon. You give them minus 3000 DP for each of your Digimon. So if they were to have a wide board, then they could get punished for it, and you can get rid of like some important pieces on the board. It is specifically just to one of their Digimon though, so please keep that in mind. This is not my Spiral Masquerade dreams come true again. This is mostly you just laser focus on one Digimon, you give it the minus 3000 DP. However, the one attacking is not once per turn. So if you were to somehow pass the turn, overclock, get the one attacking stuff, so you would get it. There's the dream scenario is you were able to do this 3 times, right? You do it the first time when you Digivolve, or actually I guess 4 times, because you could Digivolve, keep turn, you attack, do it again, and then you can overclock, do it again, grab back turn somehow, and then you can overclock again. So that's like 4 times for however many Digimon you have. You will be a little bit less after you overclock though, because you do have to sacrifice a Digimon, but it's still really funny. So the Cendrillmon is a little bit more aggressive in terms of playstyle, and I think it's pretty fun in some ways. I am learning to play it like puppets again in a very odd way, just because I was so locked into a very specific playstyle for it that I'm kind of teaching myself how to be more flexible when it comes to it again. And I think that's the really fun part about Digimon, is that game's always changing, and the flexibility comes with the territory for it. So I also think this art is so pretty. Am I silly enough to try to get 4 mangas? No, but I was lucky enough to be able to acquire 1, and it's as pretty as I thought it was going to be. Anyway, our last Digimon card that we are playing in this one is one Nyabootmon from BT22. This one lets you evolve on top of a Chaperomon if you have an Eraser on the field, but that won't really matter for this one because, as you can tell, there was no Chaperomon in that level 5 section. So this one does have to evolve on top of one of your level 6s. It also has Overclock. It has a when Digivolving effect where you play a level 4 or lower puppet trait from your hand without paying the cost, and then to each of your to one of your opponent's Digimon, you give them minus 3k until their turn ends for each of your Digimon. More importantly, for this Nyabootmon, it's until your opponent's turn ends. So even if you're not able to delete something on their field somehow, the DP protection sticks. So long as like they don't have some way of like getting the protection for it. Then all turns once per turn, when any of your other Digimon are deleted, you may activate this Digimon's when Digivolving effect. Because it's a you may activate, you can choose when to activate it from the on deletion. So if you think, okay, this is not the right time, that's totally fine. You can do it later. Up to you. I've found that in the past couple of games that I've played, when I was tinkering around with a Arisa Central focused version of the deck and this Mirai focused version of the deck, I found that Nyaboot actually wasn't as necessary as it was before. I used to run this as a 2 of for it just because the level 6s for puppets are very nice, and so I don't always need to go into a level 7, but more so than ever I found myself not necessarily really needing it as much as I had before. So for that reason I just cut it down to 1. I don't know if I'm gonna see that changing anytime soon. I really haven't had a lot of games where I'm like, oh, I really wish I had like this other Nyaboot, or like I really wish I had a Nyaboot in my hand. I haven't really found myself saying that as often as I used to when it comes to level 7s or like game finishers. But that's it for our Digimon, so we're going to move on to our tamers. We're actually only running one kind of tamer, but 2 different versions. First off is the 4 of the Mirai Kinosaki from EX9. I finally found a spot for her, guys. I was disparaging her like in earlier videos or like earlier iterations of this deck, and I was just not a fan of it. So I cut her completely from my Puppets deck, and I'm very happy that I kept all the alt arts because I found a spot for her. So she's a 3-cost tamer. On play, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You add 1 card with the puppet trait or the puppet or liberator trait among them to their hand. You return the rest to the bottom of the deck. It's a 3-cost pickup 1. And then your turn, when end of your Digimon evo into a puppet trait Digimon, you return this tamer to the bottom of the deck. Then you can play 1 Arisa Kinosaki or a puppet trait Digimon card from your hand with the play cost reduced by 3. Hey, did you know that you can play that Karakurumon with this, and it would only cost 3? Don't get rush, but you know, still kind of funny. Then the other one is going to be a 2 of the Mirai Kinosaki from EX11. This is a 4-cost tamer versus a 3-cost, and it's not a memory setter, which is the only like sour taste I have about it. But sort of your main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, you gain a memory, so at least it gains you a memory because the EX9 Mirai does not. However, your turn, when any of your Digimon evolve into a puppet trait Digimon, you suspend this tamer, and then you can play a level 3 puppet trait Digimon from your hand without paying the cost. At turn end, delete the Digimon this effect played. You do technically lose a body. If you play specific Digimon, you could try to get those bodies back. It does not matter if you Digivolve on top of that Digimon, because the game will still see it as that Digimon being played. The only way you could probably get around that is if you put DNA evolution stuff in here. I am on the fence about both of these Mirai still. I might actually knock down the EX9 Mirai Kinosaki to 3. I am considering putting 1 Arisa in this deck, and the Arisa that I would put in this deck is the old memory setter. That is when you play a Digimon by an effect, or when you play a token or a puppet by effect, you suspend it to give it rush, because that's the game finisher that I'm looking for. I have found that I am usually like one swing where I'm like, I kind of just want this one Digimon in here. I could put the Nyabootmon in there. I don't know that I'm in love with putting a second Nyabootmon versus a memory setter tamer in here. Don't get me wrong, I think both of these Mirais have really good synergy with each other, especially because all they're really doing for you is they're helping you search for stuff and they're helping you advance your game plan. I just think that having at least 1 memory setter would somewhat be helpful in this game. So mostly because, spoiler alert, I'm not actually running any memory boosts. So we'll get into that actually when we go into the options. But again, like this EX9 Mirai Kinosaki might change the ratios just a little bit, but those are only 2 tamers so far. And then of course our options. So I'm running 4 of the unique emblem narrative round. This one is the Searchers, so this is a 2-cost main reveal top 3, add 1 puppet trait and 1 liberator among them to your hand, and you return the rest to the bottom, and then you have a delay effect for this. When any of your Mirai Kinosaki are played, you delay. One of your Digimon while you Digivolve into a level 6 or lower liberator trait card in the hand with the cost reduced by 3. It does have to have Liberator trait, so please keep that in mind. It does mean a lot of your off-color level, it means all of your off-color level 4s are off the table for the evolution for this one. So please be very cognizant of that one. I like that it's a 2-cost search. I like that you have a delay for it, and I like that it triggers off of Mirai. I still think that I like having a memory setter in there. And the last one I'm going to be running is one of the physical training. I just like searchers. I honestly, it was between this and a scramble, which is why I put Hanimon back in. But I just really like searching. And if for some reason you can't find your Mirais, because that's how the game goes sometimes, then you can always use this to evo into your level 5s for another reduced 2 cost. So the reason I'm not really running memory boost is the more and more I play this game, the more I realize that I find that memory boosts hurt a little bit. And I mean that in terms of not being able to pick up either option cards or tamers has really kind of sucked. Like, when I really think about it, if I can physical training and I can pick up a unique emblem off it, I would be so happy about that. Like, depending on my hand, I would love that. When I memory boost and I search for cards and I have to bottom deck 2 pieces that I would like to have later on, and that hurts a lot more. The 2 memory is almost negligent to pick up later on versus physical training, where you're only looking at top 2, so it stings a little bit less, right? And there is a lot of searching that you can do in this deck. For me, the way that it feels is that I find that memory boosts just don't feel as comfortable as they used to. So again, that is such a personal thing though. So if you want to find space for memory boost in here, absolutely go for it. I think you can cut either one Mirai or you can cut this physical training completely. There's a lot of different things you can move around. You could cut the Namakemons for memory boost, honestly. Again, this is assuming that you're running the Kyaromon egg. But that's, again, your personal preference, your playstyle, what you're seeing, and what you think your deck needs. So this is the deck list that I'm currently running. I know I talked a lot about puppets. I loved this archetype a lot. I was very happy when they introduced it, and a huge part of it was that I really loved Shoemon when they were introduced in the Digimon Liberator webtoon, and I loved the fact that we had like a whole sister squad in here, so it was really neat. If you're not reading Digimon Liberator, go read it, please. It's done. They're doing an epilogue. The novel is actually where Mirai makes her official, kind of debut. So she shows up a little bit more. She is technically a novel character more than she is a webtoon novel character, but she does show up in the webtoon as well. I like her character a lot. And I really love Hanimon's design. I'm so excited, though, to see more Kaguyamon stuff, because we should be getting more Kaguyamon in Shambhala. So we'll see how this deck changes, if this deck even looks the same, because of what the Kaguyamon might do in that deck. But other than that, thanks for listening to me ramble about puppets, about Kaguyamon, and thanks as always for checking this out. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. So, bye-bye.